Tech Hot Takes, a new video series for Thomas Key Design. In these videos, I'm going to be giving my kind of hot off the presses, just kind of very loose opinion, a hot take of tech news as it comes out. So if it's something big and I've got an opinion on it, I'm going to try and do these videos, kind of around when this stuff happens, just to stay on top of things so it's not like a hot take on like something that's 3 months old. So, trying to get this particular one out the day the news came out. So, despite time zones, obviously. Anyway, what am I talking about? New Surface Pro. So this is the new Surface Pro, and we're going to get into more about that naming in just a second. But basically, there was an event today in, I believe it was Shanghai, that Microsoft unveiled a new piece of Surface hardware, and it's basically their Surface Pro for refresh. So what is Surface Pro? Well, it's not the Surface Pro that came out, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer at this point. No, it's and it's not the Surface Pro 5. Microsoft made that very clear before, right before this event, that there wouldn't be a Surface Pro 5, and they were technically right, as in this isn't called Surface Pro 5. And the reason they gave before the event that they're not going to have Surface Pro 5 is because they didn't consider just a spec bump, moving from like Skylake to Kaby Lake in this instance to really be enough of an upgrade to warrant a whole new version number. It had to be something transformative. But given the way this naming is working, I think, or what's implied by this naming scheme is I think they're doing away with the version numbers altogether. Which is going to be confusing to try and keep track of, the versions. So, it's very clearly delineated, with Surface Pro, Surface Pro 2, Surface Pro 3. But, I understand the numbers aren't very elegant. They're really trying to streamline their product line here. And, I could see them having, maybe 2 or 3 product categories where they have Surface Studio, Surface Book, and Surface Pro. Or maybe Surface Pro, Surface Laptop, and Surface Studio. And Surface Book. Maybe they'll have 4 things. Point is, it's Surface plus something, and they're going to not get crazy with the numbers anymore. And I'm fine with that, stylistically. I guess we'll just have to go to calling it like, Surface Pro, version 5 or whatever. Whatever colloquialism we're going to come up for it. Right now, I'm calling it Surface 4.5. Surface Pro 4.5, because it's basically just an iteration, kind of a progression on the Surface Pro 4. But it's more than just a spec bump, and we'll take a look at that further in the video. So what makes it new? We'll start with 2 kind of minor things. So the first thing we have on the left here is the hinge. It now is, as you can see in the middle position, it folds down even flatter than before. So it gives you kind of this slightly propped up angle that's really good for illustration, really good for handwriting. Well, it depends on, what kind of artist you are and what angles you prefer, and maybe what kind of work you're doing. But I really like this angle personally, and so I think this is going to be great for me. So yeah, a little bit of added functionality to the hinge. It's still like the infinity hinge. It's still basically the same hinge except for the new angle. And now it has some new colors. Okay, so you can get the Arc mouse, the Alcantara, new fancy Italian kind of ultra suede-esque fabric. You can get that in burgundy, cobalt blue, and platinum. And my favorite is the cobalt blue. Ever since they announced the Surface laptop and I saw the cobalt blue laptop, and I was hoping they really do this for the next Surface Pro 4, and they did, and that makes me very happy because I really want the cobalt blue. So anyway, yeah, and black comes in black, still the basic black, if you want it to be all murdered out. Yeah, so I think great color selection, very classy, very modern, enough color to really give it kind of a kind of a splash of color, but not enough to be overwhelming or gaudy. I think they did a great job on that. All right, so here's where things really, we can really get into some of the more core differentiations. The tech specs. So, what's inside? So, processor, obviously now from 6th generation Skylake, it's now 7th generation Kaby Lake in M3, i5, and i7 flavors. I don't have the clock speeds or benchmarks or anything available to me for that, but those are your model numbers for the processor and everything that they might connote. Here is the memory, which is 4 gigs, 8 gigs, or 16 gigs in terms of RAM, and it's basically how much you want to pay. 4 gigs is kind of silly in this day and age. I think if you're going to be doing any sort of content creation, 4 gigs is really kind of a joke. 8 gigs is doable. I think that should be pretty much standard on every computer now at this point. And 16 gigs is that's great. That's what I've been using on my last 2 computers, is the 16 gigs of RAM. My current computer and my previous computer have both been gaming laptops, so I found the 16 gigs of RAM serves me really well. I have to work pretty hard to push it to the limit under normal circumstances in terms of RAM. So I feel like even the 8 gig model will be good enough for me. That's probably what I'm going to get. But 4 gigs, you really start to bump into some limitations, especially if you're going crazy in Photoshop and Illustrator. Illustrator especially is going to eat up your RAM. So yeah, 4 gigs is a little silly. Solid state drive, this time it's integrated into the motherboard, so apparently they could save some space and make some more room for the battery. I haven't really taken a very close look at those breakdowns where they show you kind of like the whole thing like kind of pulled apart, so I don't know exactly what the internals look like. I've got kind of a rough idea, but if that's how they increase the battery life by making more room, that's pretty cool. Basically the same configurations as Surface Pro 4. You get 128 gigs, 2 56 gigs, 5 12 gigs, or 1 terabyte. Weight, it's very light. I don't know how it compares to the other Surface Pros, but it feels kind of like to me like maybe like an iPad with like a case on it, like a bulky case, which is incredible for a computer with this amount of processing power and capability. To be in such a small, or not necessarily small, but light form factor. It's pretty incredible stuff. And that's really the engineering that you're paying for with these Surface products. Graphics, in terms of graphics, I don't know anything about these graphics, but I'll read them off anyway. Integrated graphics, obviously, Intel HD 615 on Core M3, HD 620 on i5, and you bump up to the Iris, the special Iris integrated graphics from Intel, the Iris Plus 640 on the i7 models. So i7 model may be better for 3D rendering, video editing, that kind of thing, anything that kind of taps into GPU type of intensive tasks. But I think the i5 will probably serve you pretty well. M3, I think it's going to be better than the Surface Pro 4, but it's probably going to be kind of potato still. I don't know if you really should get that one, in my opinion. Battery life is up to 13.5 hours of video playback, so they're claiming. Honestly, if it got half of that during regular work tasks for me, or like drawing or sketching, that would be incredible. And if for like a regular day, if it gets 8 or 9 hours, I mean, whoa, like that lasted you through your entire day, an entire work day at least, with a single charge. That's pretty incredible. So I think it's battery life looking great. We have to see exactly what it's going to be like when people are doing tests and stuff. But right now I'm very optimistic about the battery life. I think that's amazing for a Windows machine. Display is 12.3 inch pixel sense display, basically the same display as before, same resolution, same great 3:2 aspect ratio, which I love for drawing in portrait mode, and I love consuming media like websites and books in portrait mode. I think 3:2 is definitely the way to go. I don't miss 16 by 10 or 16 by 9 at all, like on my iPad. Even watching videos, I don't mind the letterbox because the screen's big and beautiful. And I have an iPad Air 2, and this is even bigger than that, so I'm definitely not going to have any media consumption problems. I just think 3:2 is the superior resolution in terms of usability, at least for me. So I'm glad that they stuck with that 10-point multi-touch. I heard something kind of vaguely during when Microsoft was announcing it, or on one of their videos or something. I read that this has some sort of increased color gamut, but I don't know, if it covers more of the Adobe, RGB spectrum, or what exactly that means. But the screen was fantastic on the Surface Pro 4, so it's probably going to be that, maybe a little bit better. Great 267 PPI, amazing stuff. One thing I don't mention here is I/O. It's basically the same as Surface Pro 4, which has been kind of controversial for some people. Honestly, I think USB-A is still the way to go. Basically, everything that you use that you want to plug into a Surface potentially has USB-A. Want to plug a thumb drive in, USB-A. Want to plug a hard drive in, external hard drive, USB-A. Want to plug, a lot of external mice in, USB-A. Want to plug an old crappy printer in that doesn't have Wi-Fi, USB-A. Want to plug your smartphone in the charge that has a USB-C end. Well, the end that goes in the computer is still USB-A. So, I think USB-C is going to rule the land at some point, and it's going to be amazing. And it's going to be a wonderful future where we have this port that does all these cool things, like a Thunderbolt 3.0 or Thunderbolt USB-C/3.0 port, and it's going to be really cool, and we're all going to be happy. But until then, I think this is really the smart choice, just to kind of stick with what they got. Maybe I believe it has a mini display port. Maybe they could have switched that out. I don't know. Since Thunderbolt through USB-C can still do video and stuff, so maybe they could have made a change there. But honestly, if you need your ports, you need your dongle life, you can get your Surface connector, Surface connector dock thing. Yeah, it's kind of expensive, but you get a lot of stuff in there. There's all kinds of other dongles and accessories. Honestly, I think having the USB-A port is more practical at this point. And there's still an SD card slot, a micro SD card slot for expansion through there, or transferring pictures or videos. And there's still a headphone jack, so great. If you're not feeling courageous and you don't want to get rid of your headphone jack, you don't have to. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. It's a new Surface Pen tech specs. I could do a whole video on this. I'm very excited about the new Surface Pen. Pressure sensitivity is 4,096 levels of pressure sensitivity. Big increase, like twice as many than before. No, I think more than twice as many. I think the old pen only had 1048, something like that. So a lot of pressure sensitivity. I find anything over like 2,000 to kind of have diminishing returns in terms of you being able to notice. But increased pressure sensitivity is always a good thing. And I think something around, some 4,096, aside from the crazy, like, I think the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro and their new Intuos line is up to 8196. I mean, besides from that, I think 4,096 is kind of the gold standard. I think that's definitely the, perfect place to be in terms of pressure sensitivity. Tilt finally has tilt, something that was great in the iPad, and obviously the Wacom pens before. My Intuos 5, which unfortunately broke recently, that had tilt, and I loved it. Tilt is great. It really helps you kind of be more expressive in your lines, and A lot of people use it for the shading with like a graphite pencil, but I use it for so much more, especially with like a paintbrush, being able to angle your strokes. Like in the video that Surface that they released for the new Surface Pen, it's got they had like these Chinese calligraphy painters, and how important angle and stroke direction is for that. And it's just kind of being able to get kind of a little bit of an angle on things, kind of give things a little bit more expressiveness by moving the angle back and forth, or tilting it up or down, or kind of doing a swoosh or something. There's a lot that you can do with tilt that I really miss with pens that don't have it. So I'm really glad they added tilt. Still as the eraser, just one barrel button. I believe I was trying to think, maybe the old one or one of the old ones had two, but one button's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to miss it that much. The important part is basically the pressure sensitivity and the tilt for me. I could even do without the eraser, but honestly, the eraser is a big bonus. So I'm glad it still is an eraser. Here's where the things get a little bit tricky. So in terms of the pricing, I still think this is actually fairly reasonably priced, considering what type of product it is, considering the amount of hard work and in terms of R&D and engineering and whatnot has gone into this, and basically where they're placing it to compete with like the MacBook Pro and stuff. I think this is still a fairly reasonably priced computer. Obviously, you can get something really cheap that does a lot of the same things, but it's all about the premium quality in terms of build materials and industrial design, and it's just, the Surface products are fantastic pieces of hardware, and I've wanted to own one for a very long time, and I'm going to try and save up, and hopefully this will be the first one that I'll actually be able to get my hands on. I'm very excited about it. But until then, let's go over the pricing and what model I want to get. So the M3 has 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gig SSD, $799. Great entry-level price, great entry-level computer, or kind of around, I think, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Okay, cool. Only problem is these kind of specs just don't really cut it in a lot of ways for some of like the Adobe apps, or something that if you're going to be getting into serious content creation, it's going to be a bit of a struggle with this model. And then personally I'd recommend an i5 or higher, and then you bump it up. Okay, so you got the i5 now, great, but you only got 4 gigs of RAM still. Not so great. $999, little pricey for that, but okay. Then you get the model that I'm considering, where you got the i5, great, that's what I want, fanless. Very excited about the fanless feature. Willing to give up some performance for the fan, and returns for no fan, and for a cheaper price I'm willing to give up some of that performance. So great, i5, it's going to perform pretty well, I think. 8 gigs of RAM, okay, also great. I can live with 8 gigs of RAM. Would I like more? Yes. Do I need more? Not necessarily. So 8 gigs is great, perfectly doable, manageable. 256 SSD, yeah, okay, that's a decent amount of memory, and with the the amount of expansion that you can do in terms of the SD card slot and plugging an external hard drive, I don't see that being a problem. So okay, around $1,300, not too bad. That's about what I would expect to pay for my next computer in terms of the upgrade cycle. So that's great. And when you take into consideration that this computer can basically replace my whole setup, where I have a big old laptop, and I've got a Wacom tablet, I've got all this, I got all that. It's basically an entire studio that you can fit into like a small like travel kind of like satchel or something. It's thin, it's light. You can take it, you can draw on it, you can show it to clients. You can edit things in real time for clients. It's a real productivity booster, and a really great thing. And One thing I would really love to do of it is I would love to go out and do some open air, digital painting. Just paint different, landscapes I see, or different people, or, just whatever. Just be able to go to a coffee shop or something and just get out of the house and still be able to create and to kind of open up my workspace. So anyway, then we move on to the i7 models. And it's the i7, 8 gig of RAM, 256 gig SSD. That's still pretty reasonable. You're still looking at more of the reasonable range there for those kind of specs. But then things start to get a little bit crazy when you have the 16 gigs of RAM and the 512 gig SSD. Then you're like, whoa, okay, this is over $2,000. And then, oh my god, that's like crazy, like full spec. Well, not full spec, because like a full spec MacBook Pro is like $4,000. Well, maybe not that much, but you're getting into like crazy overkill territory with 16 gigs, 1 terabyte SSD. And if you got the money for that, great. Go out and buy it. But that's really kind of a lot of money for something like this. I would take the money that you would spend. Even going from the 512 SSD, gig SSD to the 1 terabyte SSD, I would take that $600 and buy like a really nice external drive, like a 3 terabyte external drive, and still have tons of money left over. I mean, that's just, you're just paying for convenience at that point. Bummer time doesn't include the pen like the other ones. It really bums me out. I thought it was great that they included the pen before, but I've heard a lot of people say that one of the reasons why they might not include the pen is because of the increased price. They made some very significant technological advancements in this pen, and that they're charging a premium for that, and in terms of the cost of the new pen. Okay, that's fine. Went from like a $50-something pen to like a $100 pen. That's okay. I'm still bummed it doesn't include in there. I really liked having that. It sucks having to buy extra things just to get the performance that you want, because the pen is one of the whole reasons why I want this. So the pen is like the whole point to me. So without the pen, without the it's just a really nice tablet to me without the pen. I can't use it to do my work. I can't use it as the device I really want. So the pen's very important, and the pen's still there in a really big way, and it's the best pen ever. And one other thing I forgot to mention is they got rid of the latency, apparently. Like I've heard crazy claims like, oh, world's fastest pen. I don't know if I believe that, but still, I've heard the latency is drastically improved, and I didn't even think it was that bad on the older models. So higher or lower latency is great. Anyway, great pen. Unfortunately, you gotta pay for the pen this time. So you got $99 pen, and the type cover for the new Alcantara ones is $159.99, same price as the old Alcantara signature edition. And I think you could probably still get one of the older, cheaper ones. It's $139. I want that cobalt blue, and I like that Alcantara like fabric, so I'm going to spring for it. But yeah, it's an extra $260-ish on top of the prices above. So things start really getting expensive, and that's unfortunate, because you do see some companies like Samsung with the Galaxy Book, which is a very good Surface Pro 4 competitor, and I guess now a Surface Pro competitor is, you get the keyboard folio in the bag. It's not as good because you don't have the kickstand and everything, but you get a really nice keyboard folio, backlit, nice keyboard. You get a pen that supports tilt, also included, and you get the whole bundle for less. But I would rather spend an extra couple $100 and get the Surface product that I've been hoping and dreaming for years now. Ever since the first Surface came out, I've been absolutely in love with these devices, and I've always wanted to own one. And I want my next major tech purchase to be a Surface product. I've decided, because every time I've gone and I bought something besides the Surface, I've always had that kind of thought in the back of my mind here and there, like, oh man, what if I had got the Surface? You know, what if I had got the Surface? You know, so gonna do it. Hopefully, it's a lot of money, and that's something I don't have a lot of right now. So we'll see how the future goes for me. But hopefully, I'll be able to start saving up and get one of these later on down the road, and of course do an unboxing and a review. You know, when that day comes. But until then, wow, this is a long hot take. This is what, 26 minutes. I messed up a lot in the beginning, so it's going to be edited down. I'll try to keep these shorter in the future. Again, this is a little informed for a hot take. kind of have a lot of information here just for like an off-the-cuff opinion, so it's probably just going to be like a title card and then just me like talking on a webcam for other things in this series of videos. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, that's great. Give a thumbs up if you liked it. You know what to do if you didn't like it. Leave terrible comment, thumbs down, blah blah blah. You talk too long, your voice is stupid, whatever. Yeah, if you like the video, you want to see more videos, you can subscribe, and then you'll get more videos. You may have to hit that notification button to do that, or to get those consistently. I'm trying to upload more often, so hopefully there'll be more videos to watch. I've got a Patreon down below if you want to invest in my digital art. I also want to use Patreon. If I can really get it going at some point, I'd like to use it to pay for review units and things for this channel for me to unbox and to review. But yeah, anyway, Patreon, some exclusive content, blah blah blah. You know the deal. Go check it out. Link down below. I'll see you next time.